South Africa told judges at the World Court in The Hague today that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza and pleaded with the court to issue an interim order for an immediate halt to Israel's military actions. Robert Hewish is a political scientist at Dalhousie University. Mr. Hewish, genocidal intent, that is a hefty charge. I know you are not a lawyer, but in the history of world politics, how difficult has that intent been to prove?
Yeah, you're right, Tom. And when there's accusations of genocide, that's usually the big sticking point. Is there actually a declaration to remove or eradicate a people or a race altogether? Now, we've seen incidents in the past, and even in the past few decades, where that intent did come forward. I'm thinking to Rwanda, also with the Rohingya peoples in Myanmar. That was another example of that. And what's hinging on this current case with South Africa's charge of genocide on Israel is that the Israelis are not saying that it's about a removal of a people intentionally, that this is just the collateral damage from the approach that the war has taken so far. And I think the courts, the way that they are presenting this case so far, is one to say that the methods used in Gaza right now are lending themselves towards the same outcome. And it's not necessarily, all down to intent, but, are you making the decision to pursue a war in this way that's leading to the same result?
And so that would be Israel's defense that this is war, this is just war?
That's right. So we've seen, if we roll it back a little bit, back to some of the hospitals in Gaza, Israel was saying, look, Hamas is using these hospitals as military centers. So that's a war crime. And then Hamas is saying, hey, you're bombing hospitals against Israel. That's a war crime as well. So when you have both belligerents accusing each other of war crimes like this, it becomes really, really difficult to try to find clarity. And so with the current case, Israel is saying, look, we're not trying to eradicate a people. It's just that Hamas keeps hiding behind civilians. And that argument is a bit short, knowing that we know just how much capacity Israel has for bombing, for airstrikes, and the collateral damage on civilians can be very easily calculated with every bomb strike. So if you have that knowledge going into a theater of war and you're still tolerating those civilian casualties, and in some cases now we see multi-generational families who have been killed by this conflict. 1% of Gazans have now been killed by this. That is a number that's going to be hard for Israel to defend itself against.
And so how significant could this case be?
Well, I think it's going to be one that won't run out of steam anytime soon. And what we'll see come from it is that likely when the court makes a decision, it'll likely come down to whether or not Israel intended this genocide or not. And even if they say that no, they didn't, the catastrophe that's unfolded from this will likely result in a lot of political cooling against Israel. So a lot of countries in the global south, in Africa, Middle East, parts of Asia, even Latin America, may say we are not comfortable dealing with Israel anymore as a result of this. And so we could see some form of a embargo, I suppose, or a sort of de-investment in anything Israeli after that. I could see that as being a broad political reaction by many countries, regardless of how the outcome of this decision goes.
So is there a changing worldview of Israel's role in this war then at this point?
I think so. And I think it's one where even the United States is trying to delicately balance. Of course, the US has a very open commitment to Israel to ensure that Israel can defend itself. But at the same time, there's also been moves put forward by the United States, say, for example, to put sanctions on Israeli settlers who are on the West Bank of Palestine right now, as a message to say, we don't agree with how this is being handled. We agree with Israel's ability to defend itself, but this isn't really looking like defense anymore. And so that's a really tough one. And other countries as well are getting into a position where they're going to have to make a call. Are they going to support Israel all the way? Are they going to denounce Israel, or will they just trust the court to make a decision that they will then respect? Canada has yet to make a very clear position on it yet, but that last move about making respecting an international court's decision, that could be a way for Canada to look at its approach to what's going on right now with the war.
Yeah, we only have about 20 seconds or so left, but I understand that to prove or disprove genocidal intent could take years to go through the courts. But could the court order a stopping of the attacks, at least in the Israeli war, in the war between Israel and Hamas, in the meantime?
Yeah, it could lead to a very quick ceasefire in this way, and of course, usually the courts will impose blockades, sanctions, this sort of thing if there's failure to do so. And then the next step after that will be the humanitarian assistance that needs to come into Gaza as a result of this. If there's any sort of interference of that aid coming into the country, that could be the next step in that equation of saying, well, look, this is now intent of trying to really put the hurt on this civilian population.
Political scientist Robert Hewish, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom.